All right, let's. Yep. All right, so hello Zoom. I am recording now. So we're going to talk about kind of what to look at when you're grocery shopping. I'm going to send everybody this electronic copy, and I've got 8 copies printed at the gym. So I'll have up there for you guys on Monday. So the first rule of shopping at a grocery store is to make sure that you don't shop hungry.
I snack before I go.
Yes. And then rule number 2 is don't shop with hungry kids. And then rule number 3 is avoid the Girl Scout cookies at the front door.
You can always get them when you leave.
Yes. Yes. Girl Scout cookies are good in moderation and can be part of a good, healthy, balanced lifestyle. So then you want to also make sure that you don't ever shop without a grocery list, and that you try to start your shopping trip by shopping mostly the perimeter of the store. The stuff on the inside of the store can be part of your daily lifestyle as well, but it's going to have a lot more preservatives in it.
In Walmart, it's the groceries all on one side.
Yes.
Still, the perimeter is king. So, like, if you can kind of pan around and show people.
Yeah.
We started off here in the produce section. That's right by the front door for a reason.
Front door.
I mean, if Walmart was trying to help you eat healthy, they positioned this place in the exact right part.
Yeah. So we've got
This is all real food. This is a good place. So
real food, and they've got a really good selection here of organic food. So we'll talk a little bit about the difference between organic and not organic. And I've made a list for you guys of what they call the dirty dozen, and the foods that you don't necessarily have to buy organic. So it's going to have to do with how much it's on. Oh, Wit's on there. Yay. I admitted that. Hello, Wit.
which are 2 places at one time?
So we've got a list of organic foods. So I can.
It's 2 or 4.
Hey, Wit.
Hi, Boo Boo.
Are you going to come join us?
I'm actually not. I'm on the other side of town. I just left Wild West. Are y'all going to be there for an hour?
I don't know about an hour, but we're going to be here for a little bit.
I'll probably just hang out this way.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so right now we've got a list of the dirty dozen. And these are going to be the foods that ideally you want to purchase organic. And if you don't purchase them organic, then you for sure want to clean them. That way you've removed as much preservatives as possible. So these are all going to be foods that you buy in the produce section.
Okay.
And then we've got a list of the, what they call the Clean 15. I think the list that I put in the document that I'm going to send to you guys is a little bit more comprehensive than this 15 items that are listed. But these are foods that are going to be considered to have a little bit less preservatives. I'm sorry, a little bit less of the stuff that they spray on produce. And so you don't necessarily have to focus on getting organic in order to have the safest options. So, what is one thing that the produce section does not have that you can find in the rest of the store?
What?
Meat?
An ingredients list.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
you
right.
try to focus on foods that have one ingredient in them.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
If you can.
Yeah.
And whenever you're going through the produce section, this is where you're going to find fresh produce. So we've got, just food. So I like to get, for sure, every single week, just as a staple, always on my grocery list, I get mushroom, onion, bell pepper, tomato, lettuce, cucumber, celery, carrots, and then I make sure that I chop all of my veggies so that I have veggies in the refrigerator at all times.
And then the pride is, economically, you want to make sure you're eating all of that food before it goes bad. So you pay not paying extra for the food. You only, a lot of people will buy that food and then they let it go bad and they're like, well, eating in a grocery store is expensive. Well, no, if you let it go bad, it gets expensive because then
So-
you have to buy other stuff.
That's actually next on my list is to talk about the fact that whenever I get through like my onion, carrots, and celery, if I don't finish those by the end of the week, then I go ahead and chop it up into smaller bits and put it in the freezer. And that's like a go-to meal for me that I can just throw everything frozen into the crock pot and make chicken noodle soup. Kind of the same thing if I finish my mushroom, onion, and bell pepper by the end of the week fresh, then I will throw them into the freezer. And that's usually a go-to either for fajitas or for making like spaghetti or like a taco bowl, stuff like that. So
Can we look at these over here?
Yeah.
Because they might not have an opportunity to prep something. These aren't bad.
Yep.
Like if you don't have time to prep something all the time,
yeah, so
and you just need to grab and go, this is not a bad section because these are already what you're paying for here is a little bit more expensive because somebody's already cut it up for you. But that's really all you're paying for. You're paying for the packaging, for the cut up that's been done.
yeah. So that's another good thing to talk about is that they have like pre-chopped veggies as well. So like the pre-mixed salads, and then they also have like the pre-chopped fresh veggies. So I really like to get my butternut squash from here. And
See that?
yeah, and then they've got like chopped cauliflower, they've got cauliflower rice, they've got all kinds of fresh vegetables. And if you don't finish it before the end of the week, don't throw it away, throw it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And then, you know, because for the most part, like the only thing they can't really freeze very well is like celery. If you want to eat it fresh, it just changes the texture whenever you thaw it out.
We've even gone so far as to freeze bananas and use them
Yeah.
in banana-based pancakes.
Yes.
It works really well.
And then also lettuce does not freeze well. But I mean, that's one thing that if you don't use it by the end of the week, you can just throw it into whatever your last meal of the week is, really. I mean,
Roast it up.
Yep. So those are all good options as far as produce goes. Different ways that you can cook all of your veggies. It's going to be roasted, air fried, steamed, sauteed. You want to kind of mix it up, and that way you use all of those options. And then the pre-cut veggies we talked about. All right, let's
Hey,
move on.
Look at this loop they threw us for over here.
What's that?
Okay, so in Walmart, you've got the bakery, like the quote unquote bakery section.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
This is danger zone. You don't want to get caught up in here when you're hungry.
Yeah, but I mean the bread is. I mean, a lot of people are scared of bread, but they have a lot of really good options here, actually, as far as like carby things like these tortillas. So I really like these tortillas. They're called Card Balance, but when you look at it, they've added a whole lot of fiber to them. And so like this is 18 grams of carbs, but it's got 15 grams of fiber.
Wow.
And so that helps kind of balance it out and make them lower in net carbs.
Yeah, the glycemic index is really good.
Glycemic index is better on those. And then they also have, I really like Dave's Killer Bread. It's going to be a little bit higher in protein.
And he's got a cool story too. You should look that up.
Yes, cool story. Dave's Killer Bread, and then Dave's Killer Bread also has English muffins now, and they have bagels as well.
Dave's
and-
killing it.
Yes, and then I really like these Thomas brand. If you get the light, they have a lot more fiber in them. So 26 grams of carbs minus the 8 grams of fiber. They make for a pretty good breakfast.
Yeah.
So the bakery is not necessarily something to always be scared of.
It's just you gotta get past all these other cookies,
Yes.
cinnamon rolls, and muffins.
Just walk on past. It's okay.
These are good sometimes food. But
Yes.
You don't want to keep them on here.
And I want to talk about their meat section. So we're going to start in the seafood.
Really good seafood. This
So-
is a great source of
Yes.
lean meat. Not a lot of fat here. Good omega-3s. This is the best stuff.
So I really have become a fan, actually, of making sure that it's skinless.
Uh-huh.
There you go. There's the skinless salmon. And so,
Some people like both.
yeah, and the skin on is not bad for you. It's
It's good
just,
for grilling, really.
yeah. And my favorite is I smoke it
Oh, yeah.
for like 8 hours.
Money.
It's so good.
That's good stuff.
And then they have a pretty good selection as well of
Frozen tilapia,
frozen fish.
a lot of tilapia
And
in there
so
now.
when you look at your frozen fish, you want to make sure that you don't have any added preservatives because that's going to add things like sodium. And then making sure that they don't store it in a sauce because the sauce is going to add additional.
Preservative. Monosodium glutamate.
It's going to add extra fat usually.
So what about shrimp? I've been, that was kind of my go-to during the Super Bowl with some cocktail shrimp. Is it-
Yeah, shrimp is good. It's a good source of protein as long as you're not allergic to it. So.
All right, good, all right, good.
Yep.
Good stuff.
And then as far as like different types of meat go, you want to really focus on the fat content of your meat as far as making decisions on which one's going to be the best for your family. So when you look at the different types of meat, let me see.
Like, look at this.
Does that have a percentage on it? Yeah, so this is 85% meat and then 15% of your calories from the meat is going to come from fat. And then, yeah, so this is going to be, when you see it, the color is a lot different because it's got a lot less fat added to it.
80-20,
So you have to kind of decide between the nutritional content and then
90-10.
the flavor of it. 90, yeah. So they got some good options on beef. So there's a section in the resource that I gave you guys that talks about different types of meat. So you've got, let me see this. You've got grass-fed meat. You've got meat that has added hormones, nitrates, and then organic. And kind of just an explanation of like what's the difference between all of those things because those all sound like they're like super important things to really watch for, but like added hormones, USDA does not allow hormones or steroids to be used in poultry and pork. So it can be misleading that they say there's no added hormones. Well,
Nobody
there's
does.
not going to be any.
This is something
So-
I wasn't aware of at all, and I've started to try and shy away from nitrates and nitrites quite a bit, just as I've become more aware of what's in the food. It's not that they're wrong, but if there's added stuff in there, you want to try and stay away from it. You want to keep these to a minimum.
So a lot of companies will say that they don't have nitrites or nitrates, but regardless of what the process is for curing meat, it's still a carcinogen, even if
It's
they
still- that's
use
right.
this celery juice or celery powder.
That's right. That's right.
So that can be misleading as
You see
well.
that show up in a lot of sausage. We can look at that later. Sausage and bacon.
Yep. And then I really like their frozen chicken section. They've got a lot of options that are kind of shopped out right now, but that's okay. We had a freeze yesterday or last week. They have some good like prepackaged like meals and stuff. Let's see. Look at the pork now. So
let's do this real quick. Turn around and look. So this is the center that we're kind of trying to avoid, and then we're staying on the perimeter still. So
Yep.
you see all this food up here on all these aisles. We're really trying to stay more on the perimeter so we can get more real food and not just food that will go bad.
Yeah.
And food that won't go bad the next step.
yes.
Most not real food.
So ground turkey is one of my go-tos because I'm allergic to beef. So I buy a lot of ground turkey, and so the difference between all of these different meats is that they're going to have a different fat content. So this one is going to be 85% with 15% fat, 10% fat, 7% fat. There's even one that's like 1% fat. It does not taste great. So
Yeah,
I
it's
like
hard
to
take
do
when it has both fat, too.
I like to do a little bit of like half and half of maybe the 93 and the 99% if I'm feeling like I'm going to be adding a lot of extra plant-based fats to my meal. And then chicken, of course, is a great go-to. They have a really good selection of frozen chicken.
We go through those pretty quick.
Yes.
Doesn't make you fix them now.
Yeah, so these, what's crazy about these chicken breasts is that one breast is 1 pound.
they're huge. Like
They're huge.
maybe they're on steroids, but not really. I mean, you know, like, wow, I don't know what they feed them, but it's working.
Yes, for sure. And what's cool about like the chicken breast, chicken thighs, is that you can typically take these frozen and throw them straight into the crock pot or into the pressure cooker from frozen. Okay. And then I think I've talked to a bunch of people about these like pre-cooked chicken. Uh-oh. I didn't mean to do that. Like the honey garlic sriracha. I've never tried that one, but they have Don Sol's brand has a lot of like chicken fajita meat, and they also have some steak fajita meat as well. They have it in the frozen section. We'll look at that in a second.
Okay, honey garlic sriracha. So
Oh.
it has sriracha, honey garlic sriracha. It has this word, so my wife is gonna love this. But we'll have
It's
to watch this later.
it is pre-cooked, and so you can just throw it into your salads, or you know. But,
And you know,
but
even
these
looking
are
at the ingredients, these are really good ingredients. There's nothing in here that's not. It
mhm.
just really jumps at me and says no.
Yeah.
A little bit of soy, but that's okay.
The soy that's in it is because it's got soy sauce in it.
Yep, yep. And then it's gluten free, which is really awesome. This is actually pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Good protein content. Sugar is low. I mean, if it's prepackaged and it's got low carbs, you win.
Yeah.
Like Heather said, sodium's a little bit high, so you're not going to want to salt this after you're done. This is really good stuff.
And then we'll look at the sandwich meats. This is where we're going to have those nitrites that we were talking about a second ago. So when you look at like, what's come down here? This is typically my go-to on sandwich meat. I try to not make it every single meal because of that carcinogen that we were talking about. But on this like Black Forest ham, so this is going to be mostly protein. There's like minimal fat and then not really any carbs added to it, but it does have that celery juice powder. So it is cured meat. So it still has the carcinogen in it, but you know, moderation. It's about moderation. So when you're looking at your sandwich meats though, you want to kind of decide between them by looking at the protein content's going to be about the same for all of them for the most part. And probably the fat content's going to be about the same as well. But you want to look at the carbs because sometimes they'll have added sugars. For example, the honey ham. So like when you compare the honey ham, this has got 4 grams of carbs in it compared to this Black Forest ham that's got 1 for the same volume. So you want to look at like the sugar content. Same thing with like the honey roasted turkey. This is another great go-to for like family size meals. Is these big hams. Big hams. They're great in the pressure cooker. Okay, dairy. We're going to talk about dairy now. So when you're looking at your dairy, the hardest, I think this is one of the items that is not my favorite to purchase at Walmart, just because they don't really have a great option as far as like the blocks of cheese having reduced fat. So when I'm looking at my dairy or my my cheese options, I want to go for a cheese that has less fat than protein. Because if you're purchasing, but this is not like a block cheese that I can grade myself.
That's right.
But so when you look at your, so this is reduced fat pepper jack, and it has 3.5 grams of fat compared to 4 grams of protein. So it's just as much a fat source as it is a protein source. So a lot of people will talk about cheese being a great protein source, but typically it's going to be more of a fat source. So I know that they have one reduced fat cheese, and I think it's the Great Value brand. But but you can find pretty good options over here, like in the pre-shredded cheeses. So like this, for example, this is some mozzarella. And this is made from 2% milk. And so it's going to have 4 grams of fat with 8 grams of protein.
Better.
Yeah, so
It's a
it's,
better
this is going to be more of a protein source, but you still have to consider how much fat's going to be in it. And then it has 2 grams of carbs, but there's no added sugar, so that's good. They here at Walmart, this is like the only place in town that you can find fat-free cheese. I don't recommend it. It does not have very good flavor, and the texture is kind of weird, and it does not melt.
That's right.
So I recommend using more of like the 2% milk varieties because again, there's going to be less fat than, I mean, this is like minimal. This is 6 grams of fat with 7 grams of protein, but it's better than the full fat version because when you look at that, it's going to be like 9 grams of fat with 6 grams of protein. So that's a fat source. That is not a protein source. Okay. So this is one of my favorite like hidden treasures at this store specifically. This is where you're gonna find your Laughing Cow cream cheese. This was at one point in my life, this was a staple. So I really Laughing Cow, yes. So what's great about this is that they're pre-portioned, and so you don't have to dig it out and like guesstimate is this a portion size or is this a serving size?
Oh,
And so
dangerous words.
and it has no added sugars. It's a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat, but these are a good way to add flavor. I really like this spicy pepper jack. It's great for tacos. So we buy this and this is what I use. Like I will put this in my cauliflower rice and have that as like the base for my taco bowl.
Wow. That's a good idea.
And they have a really good, where is it? Tzatziki. This is good. You ever had this before?
No.
Cucumber garlic.
Cucumber garlic. Tzatziki.
Tzatziki, yes.
Tzatziki style dip.
It's Greek.
Greek.
Yes,
It's all
so-
Greek to me.
It's good.
That's awesome.
Okay. Another good like source, like these chips, these are a chip alternative, but they're made from cheese. But again, you want to think about that same concept that we talked about a second ago with the amount of fat versus the amount of protein. So like this, if you want the whole bag, it's gonna be 23 grams of fat with 26 grams of protein. So this is more of a fat source. So this is not necessarily going to be a great alternative to chips. Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about yogurt, more dairy. As far as like margarines and stuff go, you want to make sure that you're looking at the ingredients list. They don't have the one that I usually get. I usually get the one that's like olive oil and
Real butter typically, not,
yeah,
not plastic.
real butter, not margarine. Margarine is not going to be ideal. And then we'll look at the yogurt.
Just look past all the cookie dough. Don't look at any of
We'll walk
that.
past the cookie dough and the biscuits. Okay, so
Yeah, that's not everything. These are actually, I remember, these are not terrible. You're looking at good stuff for your kids.
yeah, but what you want to look at on this though,
Hold on, yeah, there's some that are good. There's some that are not.
so
That's kind of high.
this one is going to have a lot of added sugar.
Yeah, it's worth 60 grams.
Yeah,
There's one. I've seen some yogurts that are lower than that. So I'm kind of thrown off. This is actually pretty good here. Look at this. It's a lot lower carb content.
Uh-huh.
You still get some decent protein out of it, but it's basically a nothing food because there's no fat, more carbs and proteins, but still you're getting a little bit better match because it's not just added sugar; it's just regular sugar. to begin with.
well, it does. It has 4 grams of added sugar.
Oh my goodness! There's better stuff.
Well, let me show you my favorites. So the way that I
Not that.
Yeah. So as far as like yogurts go, I tend to lean towards like the Greek yogurt. So I personally go for the fat-free yogurt.
We even use that for sour cream sometimes.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good source. But it has no added sugars. The sugar, like you mentioned a second ago, it's like right there, you've got 5 grams of total sugars, but 0 grams of added sugar. So that's ideal. And it's going to be more protein. This is 18 grams of protein in about 3/4 of a cup. So I like to have Greek yogurt that's fat free, and then I add plant-based fats. So I like to add in almonds, or peanuts, or stuff like that, or sometimes even just like dark chocolate.
Yeah, that's
And then somebody mentioned this one. No, which one was it? Somebody mentioned the other day.
This one, maybe with you?
Maybe.
15 grams of protein?
So this one is pretty good. One of the things that you want to look at is,
Yeah, look at that.
yeah, that one's got fiber added to it. So, like they add chicory root fiber, and so that's what brings down the carb volume. But it has 0 added sugar, so that's a good
protein
good one.
source and the fat's low.
And they don't have any artificial sweeteners in it.
Oh, it goes 000. You called now.
Yep. Oh, and they don't have it today, but they have. Oh, here it is. Like, check this out. These are pretty good. This
Oh,
is a great
wow.
like pre-workout
What? Get out of here.
or recovery drink.
Probably
because it's-
recovery. I wouldn't put that much protein before workout.
Yes, but 18 grams of carbs and then 25 grams of protein, and there's no added sugars. And they have one that's like a coffee, and it has 125 milligrams of caffeine.
Oh wow, get out of town. That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's
so-
a great recovery drink.
These are pretty good options there. And cottage cheese. I kind of go for the same like thought process on my cottage cheese as well. Is I like to have the fat free, and then I add my own plant-based fats.
You know, I
to
like cottage cheese. I don't eat it.
Yeah.
And Yvonne tells me I'm crazy, but there's smarter people around me. That's all.
Well, I didn't used to like cottage cheese, but then I started mixing it half and half with my Greek yogurt because Greek yogurt, I can't take the texture.
Curds that throw me off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But do you know what the curds are?
Tough.
So the liquid is whey,
Okay.
and the curds are casein.
Oh, okay.
So those people who are looking for a bedtime snack that they want to be slow digesting,
Casein's readily apparent.
casein is great in powdered form.
Delicious.
But if you're wanting to have more of a natural based diet that is actual real foods, then cottage cheese is a great option. As long as you're okay with milk products.
End of our roast.
Well, I was gonna talk about yeah.
Everybody, I don't know who doesn't eat coffee.
Yeah, so coffee creamers.
Oh. When it says this, they're not even scared of it. They're actually proud.
Real cream and sugar. But that's ideal. I mean, like I personally would rather have like whole fat.
And really, think about like carbohydrate content. That's not very high carb content.
Yes,
really, when
but
you think
then
about
look at the added sugars.
it.
5 grams of added sugars.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Everybody got it.
yes. So they've got a lot of different options. Like they've got half and half and stuff. And then they've got full fat, full cream, which I guess is all sold out right now. But this is going to be, so there's a little bit of fat, there's no added sugars, and then no protein.
Yeah,
But
like listen again.
yeah, so if you're somebody who's trying to scale back on how much creamer you put into your coffee, those are good options. Like the half and half is a good option, or even having just real full or full fat, what is it called? Whipping cream.
Yeah.
And whipping cream is all fat. There's no carbs in it. So we can talk about,
Want to talk about egg sun a little bit?
yeah.
Don't have any egg whites over there first. Really
Oh, the egg whites are over here. So egg whites are gonna be, they've got like full eggs,
Yeah, I don't know. If you're gonna do that, just get the real egg.
Yeah.
In my head, but then
but egg whites. And one of my nutrition clients talked to me the other day about her using egg whites from a carton and said that she's learned that she actually prefers to do that now because it mixes up better.
yeah, it's really good. I use egg whites in the
I think maybe because they're homogenized and pasteurized that it makes it easier. So a lot of people have asked me things like what should I be drinking instead of drinking sodas? So these types of like seltzer drinks are going to be good options. This I've recently discovered this Wave brand. This right here it's got caffeine in it, but it's got not just seltzer, but it's got a little bit of actual like fruit juice in it. So it's got like 3 or 4 grams of carbs, and they add caffeine. And then Bubbly's got their own that has caffeine in it now. The ones that say bounce have caffeine. So a lot of, I think the seltzer companies are coming around to the idea of like people want caffeine. That's the reason why they drink sodas. But the Wave is really good. And then
grab the box
Sure. Yeah, so these are pretty good. So they've got no added sugars, but it's got sugar in it because it's got actual like fruit juice. So it's got orange juice, blackberry juice, and then they add caffeine. And then when you look at like these types of sodas, you know, it says on here all the good things that they feel like they're providing, but it also has artificial sweeteners. So those who have gone through like my when I talked about sugar and sweeteners, you can kind of see there's a whole list here of all the different artificial sweeteners that they have added. Yeah, so yes, it's got some apple juice concentrate in there, but it's also got sucralose, which is processed solely by your liver and not used by all the rest of the cells in your body as energy.
Terrible.
And so
Not good for pre-workout.
it can increase your liver enzymes.
Definitely not good for pre-workout.
Yes. Fruit juice. I'll show you my cherry juice, tart cherry juice. This is one of my favorites. This is like my go-to for if I have to have some type of if I want to have some kind of like juice to mix with my whey protein. What is that?
I don't know. I need carrots.
Oh, lovely. But this is a good option.
Carrots and oranges have lots of sugar.
Yes.
21 grams of just regular occurring sugar, nothing added.
Yep.
I had an uncle argue with me. He's like, I was like, look, if you only ate fruit, you could actually become a diabetic.
Possible. Yep. And so whenever you're looking at like trying to replace your electrolytes, during a workout, these sports drinks are not going to be ideal because of the added sugars and the added like artificial color and all of that kind of stuff. And so one of the better alternative option is going to be coconut water, because that's going to have the electrolytes as well, but it's going to have less sugar. Like it looks like they did have a little bit of added sugar to this one, but it's high in the electrolytes. So you've got, there we go, no added sugar, coconut water, chill before drinking. And so this is a good option as far as like if you need something to mix with your whey protein.
Oh yeah.
As your pre-workout, it's 100% coconut water, but it's going to be pretty good for replacing your electrolytes. Oh, and they have a canned version. Of course, they have Fit Aid, but a little bit more expensive than the gym.
In the store. And they don't have new ones. So keep drinking that stuff.
And then that's a pretty good soda that's got
Have the
added
sparkling,
caffeine.
not the caffeine. Cool.
I want to just go through the spaghetti sauce, and
Let me
then
look at salsa.
yeah.
It's like the section that's sort of supposed to put it.
Well, no, not necessarily, but you want it to not be the majority of your life.
Yes.
So
Some of
It's
the
an-
shit is very sweet.
I mean, some of it, like, it's, you want to be able to make um the stuff that you're already cooking, you want to be able to make adjustments to it so that it fits into your healthy lifestyle.
That's right.
So
Some bone broth up there too, so.
bone broth is good. They've got some really good soups. These progressive soups are pretty good. But as far as spaghetti sauce goes, this is where I'm going to talk about the reading and nutrition content label. So it's going to be on the that one right there. So on here, you want to look at like when you first look at your label, it's going to tell you how many servings are going to be in the container that you're holding. And serving size is not always going to be the exact same thing as portion or portions. So you want to make sure that you're keeping in mind, like, you looking at this and then putting
Plate
like
method or hand
yeah,
method?
240 mils is going to be 1 cup. So if you're looking at this and then you're not getting this number of carbs, and so
Man,
you want to look at the calories. You want to look at like the percentages that they have here is going to be based on what is recommended as daily values by the RDA, recommended daily, and for a 2,000 calorie diet, which not all of us are on a 2,000 calorie diet.
it's true, sir.
So then you want to also look at the nutrients. So the macronutrients are going to be fat, carbs, and protein. And that's what we try to balance by using the plate method and by using those hand portion sizes. And then you want to look at the micronutrients. So that's going to be things like what different vitamins am I going to get from this food source? And then like how much fiber is going to be in this food? How much sodium is going to be in it? Because those are things that are going to affect the rest of your life.
Okay.
So
Give them an example. So, like when I come in here, you know, I could go with Purdue and Prego. I'm probably just, but I think this sounds really good, so I'm just gonna pick it up. So what are we gonna usually pick up? Some classic.
okay,
And I never really looked at it before, so we're gonna, this is me just being transparent with you guys.
yes.
What
So
am I getting into, Heather?
So this is going to be, one serving size is going to be 1/2 cup. There's going to be 5 servings in here. So if you have a family of 4, then you want to consider that, like, if I'm dividing the pot into 4 people instead of 5 people, it's going to be slightly elevated
Or
compared to this.
you can have one serving that goes as good leftovers the next day.
That's right. That's
Okay.
perfect. That's awesome. So a lot of when spaghetti sauce is going to get you in trouble is going to be the fat content and then the added sugars. So on here, I usually try to start my triaging of my food by looking at the ingredients list. So I look through it and make sure that there's not anything that I'm allergic to. My husband's allergic to soy. I'm allergic to rice. You know, there's a lot of
Oh my
foods
word.
that we
Yeah,
try
wow.
to just make choices so that nobody gets sick.
Sure.
But you look through here and just look at the ingredients list, make sure it's all foods that you think are going to be safe for your family. And then I look at the amount of added sugar. So this one would probably, there are better options, but this is actually pretty good. It's got 6 grams of carbs in 1/2 of a cup, but it's got 2 grams of added sugar. So there are some options here that are going to be a little bit more ideal. A couple of them will actually say on the label, no added sugar, which is very helpful. And then I know from experience that Newman's Own is a really good one. I really like their Saccharoni. This one has no added sugar. It's got a little bit more sugar than that, or the same amount of sugar as that last one, but no added sugar.
And a little
So
bit more carb too.
yeah, so this has got 2 grams of fat. You can find other options that have no fat, but a lot of spaghetti sauce is going to be made with oil,
Yeah.
where they add oil to it.
You guys are protein. Oh, nice.
So like this one right here is going to be one of the sneaky ones. It's got 8 grams of fat because one of the first ingredients is going to be olive oil.
Huh.
Olive oil.
Usually put oil in your
Yeah.
sauce, so you really need it that.
Right. So it's got this has no added sugars, but it's going to be a little bit higher in fat. So this is going to be more of a fat source
Man, it
than
is.
anything else. So if you made your spaghetti with the 99% ground turkey, sure, go for it.
Yeah. On the other hand, if you wanted more fat in your meat,
Yes.
but you don't want it in your
Like if you
spaghetti
want to
sauce.
add some sausage to your meat.
Good, good.
So that's kind of how I try to make the decision of like which spaghetti sauce is going to be best for me. And then if I find a couple that are pretty similar in their macronutrients, then the way that I make the decision is which one's cheaper.
Good stuff. Seriously.
And then I want to look at peanut butter. This is going to be another hidden source of sugar and oil. So everyone's go-to, like Jif, Skippy,
Peter Pan.
and Peter Pan. Those are all going to be like, when you look at these, they have one.
When I first started, I didn't picky. I went that picky. I was like natural. I got creamy, but
Yeah, so when you look at it, this looks like it would be ideal because it says low sodium and it says, look, there's 7 grams of protein per serving. Well, the real story is that any source of nuts or peanuts is going to have,
it's gonna be a fat.
well, no,
Oh,
not
good,
necessarily, it is a fat, but half of the volume of fat is going to be protein. So 16 grams of fat, and it's going to have about half of that of protein in
Wow.
every peanut butter source for the most part. But this one has palm oil added to it. Sugar. That's the second ingredient, rather. So my favorite is going to be this one here. Well, so this is, I say this. So I go for whichever one's cheaper that day because this is actually made by Smuckers.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of these products are all made by the same company. They just have different like labels that they put on them.
Weird.
But so when you look at this, the only ingredients in this is peanuts and then salt. One of the peanut butters that Shelly gave me was this guy, Crazy Richards. Peanuts. That's it. They roast them and it adds flavor and it's wonderful. But you see 16 grams of fat, 8 grams of protein.
Yeah,
So
you
it's
can see
always,
how much of the oil is still sitting on top of that.
Yeah.
And for me, I'll shake that. I'll stir it.
Turn
for
it upside down.
hours. Turn it upside, and keep going. Just keep shaking it around.
Yeah.
Let it change up, and then once you get it mixed, put it in your fridge, and it'll stay that way. It won't separate again, which is kind of nice.
Yep. Yeah. So when you look at it, it's always a ratio of 3:1. So you've got 32 grams, which is going to be 2 tablespoons, is going to be 16, is going to be 8. So it's always 3:1. And then the only other thing I wanted to look at was this, and then we'll go to the frozen food. So canned meat can be a good, easy go-to source for having protein.
There's a lot of detail in there.
So a lot of these, some of them will have added sugars.
Oh,
So like this has 4 grams of added sugar to it.
I get some of
In
this stuff.
tuna.
I'll do that.
And when you look at it, that's actually the third ingredient is sugar
Well,
right there.
see, this is where I went back in the day. So
Yeah,
I
perfect.
did a lot of that stuff.
Reduced sodium. whenever you're looking at any kind of canned fish, you want to go for in water.
Yeah.
Stored in water, not in oil, because that's going to add additional fat that you don't need. These are my favorite. Thai chili. 20 grams of protein
Nice.
and
So and
0 sugar.
for those of you in the office spaces, if you have these, you want a plastic bag, you can Ziploc, seal up after you're done, so your station doesn't smell like fish when you're done.
That's right. Yes.
Been there, done that.
All right. We can go to the frozen food and then we'll be done. So I mentioned when we were in the produce talking about like food that I buy fresh, and if I don't finish it in the time period that like within about a week, then I will go ahead and throw it into the freezer. So the way that you can know what food can I freeze is by walking down the freezer aisle, which is really sad today. Wow. So this is my favorite section because you're gonna have tons of frozen vegetables. So I like this Normandy blend is really good. It's got squash and zucchini, carrots. Like these are all foods that are going to be from that volume carbs list that we've talked so much about. Broccoli is really good. You can throw it into the air fryer or just throw it in the oven. California blend is really good too because you can use it for like pasta and stuff. It's got cauliflower, broccoli, carrots. And then green beans are life for Whitney. It's like every meal she has green beans.
Well, if you're going to get 4 screens, then you could start.
Yes.
Typically.
But the trick with getting frozen vegetables is you want to make sure that they don't have any sauce on them because the sauce is going to add additional fat and possibly hidden carbs you don't need. Because you can get plenty of really good volume carbs from just the vegetable itself. And here lately, like this was my go-to place to buy frozen fruit, and they have not had frozen fruit in probably 2 months.
Oh no.
So I can't talk about that. But they usually have a really good selection of frozen fruit, which is actually going to be quite a bit cheaper than buying the fresh fruit. And the added benefit, like the fresh fruit always tastes good having like fresh blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, stuff like that. But when you have them frozen and then they thaw out, it like creates its own little syrup. And so that's like my go-to for my snack at 4 p.m. at work is frozen fruit that I've left
Give
in
you a
the
little
fridge.
boost that you
Yes.
get to. Oh, no, that's good.
And then I add my almonds to have my pancakes done.
Make it last time.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Anything you want to add?
No, I think it's good. The nutrition information, the show was good. I don't think we need to do anything else.
All right.